I'm Andrea from Lemoore, California, and you're watching Gospel Tangents, your best source for Mormon history, science, and theology.
After seeing gender inequities within the LDS Church, Bryndis Roberts decided to do something about it. She decided to join Ordain Women. What were some of the things that she did that led her to that organization? We'll talk about that in our next conversation with Bryndis Roberts. Check it out. Also, if you'd like to hear the entire interview uncut, please subscribe at patreon.com/gospeltangents for just $5 a month. You can also get a transcript of this as soon as it's released by subscribing either there or on our website at gospeltangents.com and clicking the yellow subscribe button. Now back to our conversation. Is Ordain Women a big group outside of Utah? I mean, you're in Atlanta, I know, but are you unusual, or would you say this is a church-wide phenomenon?
I took a lot of care because I was still Relief Society president when I posted my profile. So I did not want to in any way damage anybody's testimony. And I know some people's testimonies are more fragile. And I by that time I was aware that some people did not know as much about the past history of the church as I did. I remember a calling I had before I got into the Relief Society presidency was Relief Society teacher. And I think I was preparing a lesson during the time that we were getting ready to celebrate the anniversary of the Relief Society. And, you know, if you count from the founding of the Relief Society to the year that we were in, you should have one number. But because the Relief Society was disbanded a number of years, you actually have another number. And that's the number, that's the anniversary that we were celebrating. And I didn't realize that women did not know, that it was not common knowledge among women in the church that the Relief Society had been disbanded for a number of years, or the reasons why the Relief Society had been disbanded. So I alluded to that as part of my lesson, and just some of the looks on the faces made me realize that I was possibly going down a path that could probably be troublesome to some people, and I didn't want to take that responsibility on myself for if that proved to be the thing that damaged their testimony.
Wow.
So
you're quite a studier.
So I made it I made a very big point of not in any way confusing my official role as Relief Society president with anything that I was doing with Ordain Women. Yes, I had a profile. If someone had actually gone on the internet and searched for Ordain Women and searched through the profiles, they would have found my profile, but I pretty much counted on, I didn't see an overwhelming amount of interest among the women in my ward in Ordain Women, so I did not think that they would be doing that. And I never, in any events, or if people came to my house for things related to Relief Society, there was nothing at my house that would give anybody any clue that I was involved with Ordain Women, because I saw it as my responsibility to draw that clear line of demarcation, to erect sort of a Chinese wall, as it were.
So you were pretty proactive in separating your Ordain Women from your church
from my Relief Society work.
Yeah.
Now, I did do things, as I continued to be involved in Ordain Women, and I'm not sure it was so much Ordain Women as much as just me being very proactive in raising questions and wondering why things were done this way, whether it was questioning why we had to have a priesthood holder there when we had Relief Society events, whether it was raising the question as to why the little girls only met every other week, whether it was raising a question about why don't we affiliate with the Girl Scouts, whether it was advocating for a class called Strengthening Single Mothers. So I continued to do things in my church role that were, at least in my mind, trying to address some of the disparities and the inequities, but I did not do them from the context of being part of Ordain Women. I did them from the context of just being a woman in the ward who sees these things.
Mm-hmm. Were people receptive to your admonitions?
I think I made some of the men in my ward probably as uncomfortable as I made my missionaries when I was raising some of the questions, because when I raised the question, for instance, about why, I have never been one to accept that something is a rule. If it's a rule, then it needs to be written down, and I want to see that rule, because it often has been my experience that people will read words and think that words say things that words do not say. So when I raised the question about why do we have to have a priesthood holder, show me the rule, I felt that then people went off and had to kind of look to find the rule. And of course it was in handbook number 1, the handbook. That I don't get to see. But then they came back and said, and I think the language said something to the effect of, priesthood holders should instruct members of the church, particularly women and children, not to be alone in an unlocked building. Well, I don't know, you can read that sentence backwards, you can switch the words around, you can do whatever you want to with that sentence. That sentence simply does not say that a priesthood holder has to be present when a bunch of grown women are holding a Relief Society event at the church. It simply does not say that. So I pointed that out, that this rule does not say that. And so then I felt that they sort of had to kind of go back into a huddle and kind of figure out what the next response to me would be. And so the response then is that, well, it had been considered and at the stake level, and it was a stake policy that there should not be a Relief Society meeting without a priesthood holder present. And now, again, I found that to be a bit ridiculous, because no disparagement, against any priesthood holder, but some of our priesthood holders were very, very slim, small-built men, and we had some women in the ward who were very strong, very tall, very athletic women. And I guess I thought from a sheer physical strength standpoint, I might prefer to have as my backup for protection these very strong women than this very small priesthood holder. And there was actually one instance where one of those very small young men was there, and someone went to get him because someone came in off the streets that people found a little disturbing, and he did not seem to be at all comfortable with trying to address this situation. So again, it just didn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. But my response was, okay, fine. Here is a list of the activities that the Relief Society will be doing. I leave it to y'all to find a priesthood holder to be at each one of these events. But I did take the very public stance that we would not be canceling any event because there wasn't a priesthood holder there.
Now, it strikes me, and I want to bring in your background a little bit. When you said, show me the policy, I understand you're a lawyer. Do you
Yes.
think your law background helps you with all of this reasoning that befuddles some of your leaders?
I think my law background does help me. But I think also just I didn't take my brain out when I crossed the threshold of the ward building. So I think even if I had not been a lawyer, I just think as a thinking, reasoning person, I would have been like, this makes no sense to me. I think certainly my sort of insistence upon seeing the rule, maybe that was part of my legal background, or my arguing for a different interpretation of things. But again, basically that sentence, whether you were an attorney or not, that sentence simply did not say what they were saying that sentence said.
Well, I think it would have probably satisfied most people. That's why I was wondering. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because I'll bet that that most bishops probably would do the same thing with a woman who came and said, "Show me the policy," and they said, "Well, that will placate them," but maybe not. So.
But then why should that happen? Why should we be placated? Why should reasonable questions, why should that even be a practice, and why should that even be viewed in any way as okay?
Because that's the way we've always done things, and we're going to keep doing them until the prophet says we're going to change.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that would be the orthodox answer, I think. So at least that's the answer that I've come across. Because I've run into my own little issues in my little ward too, and that's usually the response that I get. So I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Bryndis Roberts. There's an old adage in the LDS Church that women are more spiritual than men. Is that true? What does Bryndis think about that?
We are losing young women, and I think, and I really take offense almost at this notion that women are naturally presumed to be more spiritual, that we somehow do not need the additional classes, the additional learning, all of the additional things that are afforded as part of becoming a deacon and progressing through that women somehow don't need that we sort of are born with it, or I guess it descends down on us automatically. I very much take issue with that.
We'll have a transcript out shortly to our subscribers. If you'd like to subscribe and get a transcript, go to gospeltangents.com and click the yellow subscribe button. For $10, I'll give you a PDF. For $15, I'll give you a printed copy. You can also do that on patreon.com/gospeltangents. So just go there as well. You can also get past interviews on our Amazon page. Go to amazon.com and do a search for Gospel Tangents interview, and you should be able to see those as well. Please like our page at facebook.com/gospeltangents, and you can get the latest updates there. Also, check our Twitter updates at gospeltangents.com. Be sure to subscribe on our Apple Podcasts page. Go to tinyurl.com/gospeltangents, and you can subscribe on your iPhone or any Android device. So check that out. Now, for more great videos, click here to subscribe, here for a transcript, and over here we've got some more of our great videos.